Welcome to Shotcallers TV show. I'm your host, Dennis Postman. Today I have a very special guest here, Tanya Oliver. Tanya, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, I'm excited. We've had anticipation of this, trying to get this scheduled. So it's exciting that we're actually here. We're talking. Tell us a little bit about what you have going on right now, both in your business and your life.
Oh man. Okay, so right now in this season of my business and my life, my goal is omnipresence. So to really get the information out there to bring awareness to more people on self-mastery, emotional intelligence, and how to operate at peak performance when things are just not okay, but without it breaking your spirit. So that's more of my area of expertise. And my focus is just to really focus in on sales and marketing. I think the last 18 years, I've been in this for 19 years, has been about like building. I've been in building seasons where I've been building out courses and educational programs and putting the pieces together. And um, now I've had to realize that it was a habit
Mhm.
and I'm not in that season anymore. I think entrepreneurship, we get our seasons become habits, which can
Yes.
even block our blessings. So now I realize I have to become a master marketer and salesperson and social creator.
Yep.
And it's new, it's uncomfortable. I don't think I'm that great at it yet, but I'm embracing my season of becoming excellent. That's where I'm going in business, is that transition. And as far as personal, just really staying disciplined, setting new goals. I believe that when I don't know, I just think entrepreneurship is just this space of like self-discovery and self just growth. Like you can't get to the next level in business if you're not getting to the next level as a human being. So I've set some new body goals to put me in a challenge, but I've set really that's about it. A little bit more discipline since I'm more focused.
Well, first of all, I think you should know that your content is great. Like when you put it out there, it's so authentic. So like as
Yeah.
far as I would not stress about that at all because I love watching your stuff. I love seeing like your voice comes through as far as what you're doing, what kind of person you are. I love what you share. So I really appreciate that. So I think you're doing really well with that. Tell me about, you mentioned you've been doing this for 19 years and it becoming
Yeah.
a habit and it becoming a season of where you get stuck, like as far as where you're in that habit zone, you're in that business building block. What do you suggest? Because I think this is actually a really good, very good topic to start with. A lot of entrepreneurs and high performers, they get stuck in that spot, me included. And I mean,
Mhm.
you've given me advice, knowing me as little as you do, you've given me advice over just a couple audio messages. So
Yeah.
tell me how we get unstuck and how we are aware of those things.
Well, you and I, before we press the play button, we're talking about following your intuition. And a lot of people that were called to be leaders, I do believe that we all were designed to step into leadership when we're connected to God and we're connected to operating from higher consciousness, that we have to go inward a lot. And so I always say like there's three steps to transforming any area of your life. Maybe 2 years ago, I realized there was a step before the step.
Okay.
And the step one was self-awareness. But then what I realized doing my own work and getting into like subconscious belief systems and like why I was stuck or why it was like this like push pull, like you feel like you're pushing, but then there's a pulling. And that's what I consider like a stuckness, is like
Yeah.
you're not moving, but you're moving forward and backward, or you're moving in circles.
Yeah.
And I realized there was a self honesty. So if you're not honest about, are my habits more of a liability than an asset? Are my environments, my ecosystems, my relationships, are they creating harmony and alignment to my vision, or are they distracting me and pulling me away? And it's funny because I had a client and I have my inner circle group, and he was like, I'm not talking to these people anymore. They're all toxic. And I'm like, said the name. I'm like, listen, we'll say his name is like Bruce. I'm like, Bruce, these people are you're saying that because you're toxic. So everything in life is just a mirror reflection
Right.
of us. And when you're in that season, remember you are a vibrational energetic match to those things, the relationships, the business partnerships, the events that you're going to, the environments, those ecosystems, you're a vibrational energetic match to them. And as you wake up and become more aware, you have to become a different person and to go different places and to read different things, to listen, like things change.
Yep.
Your DMOs, your daily methods of operation change. So you have to have that self honesty of, oh, wait a second, I was a toxic one, or not I, but there's parts of me that were not healthy for
Yep.
my growth. And therefore, it's kind of like pulling out weeds. And then you can have the self awareness. But before that, you have to realize, like, I'm the problem. But if I'm the problem, I'm also the solution. That's that taking that personal responsibility. And then the second is, and that's what makes any great leader is like, okay, damn, I suck right now. Like, I messed up. That's on me. I take ownership. Clearly I made the decision. So next time I'm going to do a better job recruiting, or I'm going to do a better job choosing my partner. I'm going to do a better job deciding on what event I'm going to speak at, or, you know, like you say, I'm going to do better. I'm going to have better discernment. I'm going to maybe like not be so impulsive. I'm going to take a minute. I'm going to sit with this. And then the second one is become curious about it. I do something called daily audits. I have my clients do daily audits. You have a moment to really self-reflect, or else time just kind of passes by. And you have that curiosity versus the judgment. One of the biggest personality traits with high achievers is that like huge self-critic. And
Hmm.
when we depreciate, we depreciate. What we depreciate will depreciate. What we appreciate will appreciate. So when we depreciate ourselves every single day, didn't do this and I didn't do that, like we're tearing apart our self-worth. We're tearing apart our ability to trust ourselves and to know that we are capable of making the right decision next time. And it's all just a lesson of establishing better virtues. Maybe now you're a lot sharper with your discernment. Maybe now you have a voice to speak up and you're more assertive. You know, so what are the virtues that I'm gaining from each of these lessons versus judging it and shutting it down? Become curious. Maybe I felt like I was pressured and I was impulsive. Okay, well, that's part of my shadow personality trait. And then number three is seek out solutions, find coaches, mentors, people that are going to help you expand and grow in those areas. I have many coaches. I still have coaches. I did coaching last night. So if you want to have somebody to like be a healthy sounding board for you, where you have a self environment to be heard, seen, and understood, and you have tools to help you get through whatever things you need to get through as fast as possible, then you do that.
There's so much to unpack from all of that. First of all, I mean, I mean,
Yeah.
like for myself, so it's funny you say that because I think of like my past relationships. I always think of, it was always the women who were crazy. It was their fault, right? And I'm like, and then finally, as I grew mature, or more mature, I should say, is I realized, wait a minute, the problem with every one of my relationships was always that I was bringing myself to it. So,
Mm-hmm.
and then once I realized that and did some self reflection, I'm like, oh, wow. So it's never been any of them. It's only been me. So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was a hard pill to swallow.
It's cool because it's like everything. It's not that we're bad people. It's just
Yeah.
that we have traits that keep us either disconnected or connected. So I think it's important to be very intentional with how you're living life, and be intentional with like, listen, at the end of the day, is this for my greatest and highest good? And if you're making somebody angry all the time, it's gonna boomerang back to you. It's gonna impact your bank account and your finances and your mental health and your emotional stability. So why not look a little bit deeper inward, especially if you see patterns
Yeah.
with different names and different faces, but the same common thread. You gotta kind of be like, wait a second, like, is it me? And one thing that I learned is that from a woman that had coached me for 10 years is she was saying like, when I had got hit really hard and I was swindled out of $300,000, I was in a very narcissistic, very toxic relationship. I was really like, I was in a swindled relationship. Like if anybody saw the movie Swindler, like I was really like
Oh
in
my
that
God.
relationship.
Yeah.
I had no idea. And none of my clients did too, because I was like in execution mode. And I was, you know, you got to think about like, you're a professional. If you're playing at pro level, you have to be able to compartmentalize your personal life from your professional life. and it not impact. And it's really like, if you can master that, like you can master about anything. And then of course deal with that stuff afterwards. But what she had taught me, because I was open to being coachable, you got to be coachable,
Yes.
is what people that you trust, because I knew that she had my best interest always. And she said some things I didn't always want to hear, because then it had to be like, man, I'm the problem. It's me. And it's like, I would just think of Taylor Swift's song. It's
I was
me.
gonna say,
I'm the problem. It's me. But she was like, everything that you bring into your life is an external expression of what you're internally suppressing,
yeah,
because I'm an active participant in this. I chose to be involved in XYZ. I chose to give away money. I chose to do da 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 da. I chose to do da da da. And I chose to also go against my intuition.
yep,
I chose to betray myself in order to be loyal to somebody else. So, how many areas in your life, you guys listening, and then you today, is like, what areas of my life am I betraying myself, my truth?
I love that. How okay, so tell me about, first of all, how does you seem like you've got the discernment process dialed in. How does somebody who doesn't know anything about this, or maybe they know about it, but how does somebody get to the point of where they can really discern something?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, it's a process. It process comes back with self-trust and really like knowing yourself. And I you got to take care of your body. So
Yeah.
there, as I mentioned, I specialize in, self-mastery, emotional intelligence, operating at peak performance. The first two coaching sessions that I do is always the same with people. And how it's customized a little bit different, but the second sessions is specifically about building out your DMOs as a human being. And you have to remember, you're a human being before you're a role, task, and responsibility. So as a human being, how am I going to operate and function at my peak performance? Okay, my night routine, my morning routine, my exercise agenda, my food schedule, my hydration, like these are the things of how I'm functioning. Because there's a scripture in yoga where they say there's this cycle of self-sabotage, and the first part to dull our mind is through the physical dis-ease. So when our body is not well and we are not respecting our body by eating garbage food, and we're not eating at all, we don't have a food schedule, our insulin levels are all over the place, we're not hydrated, we're dehydrated, and we're not sleeping, because right, this whole hustle culture and da da da, like, you're not going to be mentally sharp. In fact, you're going to be pretty mentally dull, meaning you're going to doubt yourself. When you doubt yourself, you're going to become careless, then you're going to become lazy, then you're going to become discouraged, and then people get into some pretty self-destructive things in order to help them process their mental and emotional pain, and even their physical pain, that leads them into this hamster wheel of self-sabotage and self-destruction.
Oh my gosh. The amount of nuggets in that whole conversation are amazing.
Oh
That's
yeah, there's a lot. So getting to the point is like, the first step, I would say, so that you're not overwhelmed, because if you're overwhelmed, it's going to be a form of procrastination. Procrastination is really just the inability to process your negative thoughts and emotions. So understand that overwhelm is one of them. So if you can make things super simple, then that means you're going to integrate them. So if you understand, if you have to take anything out of that, you say, okay, if I want to have stronger discernment, that means I need to become connected to my body. I need to be able to feel. Feeling is healthy. I need to be able to learn how to have tools to help me process my negative thoughts and emotions. So if I want to have emotional intelligence, which is such a huge skill set in business, especially putting you to the top and in relationships, is I first need to become emotionally available.
right.
And it's safe to become emotionally available. And then I'm going to have tools for my emotional management, because that's step number two. So, what are the tools that I'm going to use for my emotional management? I just had a coaching session with a client. We just did some EFT work. EFT is emotional freedom technique, and it's like tapping stuff. So, if you haven't heard, it's great. They're bringing it into the school systems to help children that don't know how to, that are very like, there was in detention centers coming from domestic violent families or angry parents that don't even have their own tools. So then you have that emotional management that will lead you to then managing your emotions and then having an empathy, compassion, understanding for others as you can help guide and navigate them through their own. So that being said, I know going down a little rabbit hole, but learn how to take care of your body and know that when you have a healthy, strong body, it's going to really allow you to have a healthy, strong mind. And one of my favorite quotes, I use this a lot of my presentations, is it's like Abe Lincoln says, if you give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, I'm gonna use the first 4 hours to sharpen my axe. You are the axe.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love it. Yes. I have a book coming out called The 1 Hour Millionaire that's about constantly improving daily, like figuring basically sharpen the axe every morning. How do I do that within my habits? Do I pick a podcast? Do I do those things? What
Mhm.
do you suggest somebody does to get those habits on point and to really focus in on their life to get those habits to where they should be, to where they can live a fulfilling life and not go down that rabbit hole?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways to answer that question. Um, what I believe is that people want habits because they want an end goal.
Mhm.
So if you get clear on like, okay, well, I gotta have these habits, and all a habit is just effort on autopilot. You guys got to get really good at looking up words and understanding what
I
you're even
love that.
saying.
I'm writing that down.
So if you understand that effort is on autopilot, that I now have mental capacity to put my energy into something else, like driving a car. Think about the first time you drove a car. I mean, I was like, I had to be so freaking present. And then I had like my parents screaming at me. And I'm like, ah. And I was like nervous. And now I don't even know how I got from point A to point B. Like I'm completely somewhere else or on conversations and calls and multitasking. Not on the phone. I try not to be only if I'm stopped at a stoplight. But think about that. That's really the brain capacity. Our brain can only has so much energy every single day to process new information before we reach our cap, our threshold. So why do we want to have specific habits? Because we want to become some type of a person. So if you get clear, okay, well, these are my extrinsic goals, the goals that are outside of myself, and this is if I was an actress or an actor, like this is like who I would play and this is how I would dress and this is how then you reverse engineer it all. Okay, well, what are the habits? What are the routines? And then how do I expect to feel every single day once I have that? I want to feel significant. Those are intrinsic goals. So to answer your question is I would get clear on your intrinsic goals and practice having those and then aligning your habits, your thoughts, your behaviors to those words because those things are within your control every single day. So if you want to be healthy and strong, okay, how can I align myself today with being healthy and strong? Oh, I can exercise. I can make better decisions with food. I can make sure that I have my portions right. If you have the budget, I can hire a coach. I can hire a personal trainer and do my resting metabolic test, get my nutrition, test my metabolism. And now I have my program design. And then now I just got to follow it. And then if I can't follow it or be consistent, I got to figure out all my blocks and my self sabotaging traits. And then it becomes this journey of unlearning.
Right, right, and yeah, and saying no to those things that we know aren't good. Yeah, yeah. How
Or why we utilize them for tools because it's just a tool. So it's
Right.
not good or bad. It's either keeps me connected or disconnected because we've got to be mindful when you're labeling things, you're becoming them. So if you're saying like, yeah, I just don't, I'm depressed. You're not depressed. You're feeling depressed. If you keep claiming it, you're going to just keep being it for as long as possible. My anxiety. Do you want to be anxiety? No, I'm feeling anxious. Okay, it's a feeling. So
Yeah,
how can you now operate in a calm state of energy? Oh, I can meditate. I can learn how to meditate.
yeah, meditation is that's an amazing tool, and it drives me to a question of how important are coaches and how important is it to be coachable? Because I mean, that's changed my life, and I'm sure as we talk, I'm sure it changed your life. How
Yeah.
important is that finding those people that take you to that next level and then being coachable?
Well, when I wasn't coachable, I was not growing very fast.
Okay.
I'll just say that because there was a season where I thought I knew it all. And I think like once you get to like your mid late 20s, you kind of think
Yeah.
I got it down. I've got, 6, 7 years under my
Yeah.
plate. I know what I'm doing. Like I mean, if you want to do it by yourself, but I think to understand, like, there's these programs that if you don't want it, you don't have to claim it.
Yeah.
We're in a whole new paradigm right now. It's like if you don't want to get to the top alone, then why are you going to claim it when you're at the top? You're alone. No, I have mentors that have huge, powerful circles.
Yeah.
And mentorship and coaching is like putting you in. One of my mentors was Boss Lee, the belated Boss Lee, but I still feel like her spirit's always here. And she's just like, like having a coach is like putting you through a time machine. And one of the things that we all say is we want freedom. We want time freedom, we want financial freedom, but we want financial freedom because then we can do what we want.
Yeah.
Okay, well, like you can go travel, you can have more time with your family, you can have more time to take care of yourself. So having a coach is putting you through a time machine, and something that, like, for example, I've been doing this for 19 years, and I can take my entire student through everything I've learned in 19 years for it to become and instilled in them within 1 year. I would take all of that 1 year and be like, that's nothing, because of how much like unlearning, or you're learning the wrong stuff. And then you're like, oh, I've been learning a lie. You know what I'm saying? Like there's
The
this
hard
journey.
way. Yeah.
Yeah. Or like you realize, oh, this is a really crappy coach, or like this is what not to look for in a coach. So one of the things that I look for, I know you didn't ask this, but one of the things that I look for when I hire a coach is like, what is their life story? What is their experience? Because that's when things are really put to the test. Do they just have a certification and a degree? And then I'm like, show me the testimonials. Who have you worked with in the past? What are their results? Like I want to know, I want to hear from them. Like, how was their experience working with you? Did you feel like you were ignored and neglected, or do you really feel supported and held accountable? Because when you're going through the change, specifically in the first 3 months, that's your foundational period. You
Right.
need a lot of accountability and support with these changes that are happening in this duality of the mind and these conflictions of thoughts. And then and you need somebody that knows how to help you navigate through that and let you know, like, hey, heads up, this is what's about to happen in this phase.
Yeah.
Phase one, here's what to expect. Phase two, here's what to expect. I'm like, oh, shoot, that really was coming. And I appreciate you letting me know. So this way I didn't quit.
Yep. Yeah.
And I forget the second part you asked me about coaching. You said something about coaching, but like, that's what I look for when I bring on my own coaches.
Well, being
And then,
coachable. I mean, that's
oh, yeah,
important.
being
That's
coachable.
the other part, but yeah.
How fast do you want to get there? So when you find somebody, you're like, yeah, I can trust this person. I can fully trust this person and be vulnerable to them, because every single day you're being programmed. So you need to make sure that you're intentionally being programmed with the things that you actually want to be programmed with.
Yeah.
So it's like when you're coachable, you're growing from the right people. That's where that discernment comes in place. And even be stubborn, be skeptical.
Yeah.
I'm super skeptical. And, like be okay with asking questions. And that goes back into the testimonials. Like testimonials are really everything. What was your experience? Like, what do they do? Like this and that, like how, like you start to see results. But if you're not coachable, you're I feel like it's like a growth stunter.
Yeah.
And it's like you're wasting years.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very true. And the thing about it is you can find a coach in every area that you want in your life,
Mhm.
right? I mean, like you said,
Yeah.
training, whatever it is, you can find dancing. I mean, you can find.
Yeah. People are like, oh, you're just so natural. Yeah. Thousands, tens of thousands of dollars, and 10 years later, supernatural. Mhm.
Yeah, just overnight success, just like everything
Yeah.
else. Yeah.
How are you so great at roller skating? You're a natural. Yep, 9 years of travel ice hockey, practically summer camps, winter camps. Yeah, it's totally natural.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm a 22-year overnight success myself. So I get it.
Yeah.
On the talking about that, we had a season right in our business. I mean, you've been in this 19 years, so you knew it. About 10 years ago or so, there were a lot of people who weren't actually walking the walk and talking the talk and walking the walk. And so I love that you mentioned kind of that people that are in the business getting the testimonials, people who are actually doing what they're saying they're doing. And so we've really gotten back full circle to being able to find those people again, and you being one of those people. I think that's important to look for too in a coach.
Yeah, and make sure your coach is doing what they say they're gonna do too.
Mm.
Like I've had a few people reach out, they're like, I've had this and that, and I just felt like they just were really good at like projecting out but not actually doing it. And I'm like, I learn my greatest lessons when I'm in the trenches and I'm putting myself through my own goals.
Yep.
So I can now have an understanding of what it feels like to be vulnerable and to be susceptible and to literally hand over like this segment of my life and like let my walls down. But of course, at the same time, know that I still have to make a decision and somebody's giving me feedback that I trust, but I also still need to make sure that that's between me and God,
Yeah.
like and having that time to still have like, okay, because I've had coaches that are like this and this, and I'm like, no, no,
Yeah.
but I didn't stop working with them, but you still have to, yeah, you gotta practice what you preach because that is the greatest teacher. Life is gonna be your greatest teacher, and people will respect you so much more. Like when I do my post, they're like, "Oh, you're really just showing up now." Like, no, I'm actually just sharing now. I
Yeah.
wasn't sharing enough because I was like, "Oh, people won't really care about me."
Yeah.
And people really do care about you. They want to see your hobbies. They want to see what you do on your free time. They want to see what your belief system is. They want to see what book you're reading because it shows you, it's almost like a pre-qualifier.
Yeah.
They're like,
Yeah.
I like that person. I want to go dancing with you. What book are you reading? I want to read that book too. Like, I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
You know how you post your daily reading with what
Yeah.
now. So I did
90 days of becoming the woman God wants me to be.
I love that, first of all, just so you know, like, because we walk with, knowing that God's with us and like being, if you remember that throughout the day as you're doing these business decisions, first of all, that's awesome. And secondly, talking about your posts, like I was posting one of the devotionals I was reading. Finally, my cousin, who I didn't know was following me from another state, reaches out. She's like, Dennis, what book is that you're reading? And so it's
Mhm.
funny you say that because you're posting those things and
Yeah.
sharing that and just people
Yeah.
do want to know.
Yeah, and people wanna see that you're consistent.
Yeah.
They wanna see, like, if you're consistent, then that means you're reliable. And there's a lot of people that are not. I didn't realize how, like, rare the reliable ones are. I think because like, I'm working with leaders and people that are, like, driven and they want it once they make that decision, like, they're in. But I realize there's a lot of people that I'm like, yeah, 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 yeah. And I'm like, hey, what's up? We had a call at this time. And then like nothing. I was like, what? Like, yeah, let's do this and that. And I'm like, so confused right now. I don't operate like that.
It's amazing how many times you have a Zoom appointment or something and you get on and you're like, wait a minute. 10 minutes later, I'm like, wait a minute. Yeah, yeah, you're right. 100% right. And I think too with with working out and with nutrition and like that being important. There's something to be said about somebody who takes care of themselves and is willing to do that. That you know that they're not lying to themselves at least most
Mhm.
of the time, right? They're making
Yeah.
commitment to themselves, which means they'll honor their commitment to others.
Yeah, if you can't keep commitments to yourself, which is the whole part, like even if you're like, oh, whatever, like I'm not at a pain point yet in order to do something good. And one thing they say in yoga, they're called yoga sutras. It's like, why wait for something bad to happen to you in order to do something good for yourself? But when you have a discipline without crushing your spirit, you have a discipline, it builds this whole other level of self-worth and of self-trust. And if you can trust yourself and you know that you are significant without validation from outside people, places, and things, you become a very powerful human being.
Exactly.
And that magnet, that like it's like a magnet, like the rooms that you get invited to, the events that you get invited to, like it's just like you're just in your own lane. I say I'm minding my business. I'm staying focused. And if you people see that if they can be reliable to themselves, which is one of the hardest things to do, then I know that they can be reliable to me. And a big conversation I've been having recently that people are really fascinated with, I'm gonna share this real fast, is like you got to think of yourself as an athlete, especially if you're wanting to go pro level as an entrepreneur, which I know that's who your audience is. You also focus with leaders and people that are really, making shifts in the world. But you got to think of yourself as like, okay, if I'm pro and I'm going for the Stanley, cup. I played ice hockey, so I'm assuming, or you're going for the championship Super Bowl cup, are you just gonna want to like, you can't play at a peewee level. There's
Right.
a specific like thing that's required as far as like what you're putting in. And on top of that, like, do you want to like go pro and just sit on the bench, or do you want to be the MVP of the team? So once you decide what level you want to go at and what position you're going to play, that's really the difference. Because I've worked with pro athletes, is like the only difference that I like, something I had an epiphany one day. I'm like, man, how many coaches do you have like for a forward movement mindset? And how many coaches do you have when you're rehabbing? And then I'm looking at myself and I'm looking at my clients, and I'm like, the only difference between a pro athlete and an entrepreneur, besides like, one plays a sport and one plays the business game, is the amount of support that they have. So who is a part of your lineup in the forefront and in the back end? And not only that, are the people in your lineup strong enough to pick you back up in moments when you get knocked down? Are they strong enough to lead? Because athletes have that. Entrepreneurs, typically they're more of liabilities than strength. And when you have them, are they willing and capable, or are they just, maybe they're willing, they want to help you, your lineup, but they're really not capable to the level you need to go. And maybe they're capable, but they're not willing because they got their own stuff going on. So you need to find people, part of your lineup, that are capable and willing.
That is amazing. You are talking my language right now. This is,
Mhm.
I tell people all the time, oh my gosh, I'm so, you get me so pumped up right now. That's it. I tell people all the time to think of it as a game and to look at, entrepreneurship, but you have to, there's different levels and there's different leagues and you have to understand what league you're playing in, what level you're playing in. Do you want to be on the bench? Do you want to be the MVP? I love everything you're saying right there, because people will go and they play JV ball all day, right? And they play
Mhm.
at a certain level and they're great.
And they expect to get paid pro.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. That's amazing. Yeah. 100%. You nailed it.
Yeah.
Well, we're running out of time. So how do people get a hold of you?
I'm pretty active on Instagram, even though I know Instagram, isn't the most, I guess you got to worry about it. Sometimes people come at you, but Instagram is at Tanya C. Oliver. And then really all my social platforms are at Tanya C. Oliver. And then the website's tanyacoliver.com. And that's, I think, the best thing. Just send me a message, and I reply to everybody. So that's one of the great habits I got from Jessie Lee. She's like, make your platform family like, welcoming, supported. So you really do get me. People are like, I thought that was a bot, that's why I didn't respond. So it's like, nope, it's not a bot, it's really me.
Yep. I love it. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Tanya, for being on the show. I appreciate you. And I'm excited to look forward to our further conversations.
Appreciate you too. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.